Listen to me very carefully. Do not look for me in the dusty alcoves of universities, nor treat my words as a rigid doctrine designed to numb the sharp edges of your existence. Look at me as a man who walked the sun-drenched beaches of Algeria, who felt the suffocating weight of a world tearing itself apart in the dark, and who stared into the exact same silent, indifferent sky that mocks your ambitions today. You sit there, in your beautifully organized modern maze, surrounded by tools that promise to save your time and systems that vow to secure your happiness. Yet, when the house falls silent at midnight, a terrifying truth slips through the cracks of your routine. You feel it, don't you? A creeping, icy realization that despite all your frantic running, your status updates, and your carefully curated milestones, there is an absolute absence of inherent meaning in the theater around you. You are waiting for life to provide an explanation. Let me tell you the most liberating truth you will ever hear. The universe has no answers for you. It never did. It never will. I remember the myth that haunted my youth, the shadow of Sisyphus. The gods condemned him to an eternity of pure, unadulterated futility. His task was simple, brutal, and entirely meaningless: to push a massive boulder up the side of a steep mountain, only to watch it roll back down to the valley the very moment it reached the peak. Over and over, forever. The world tells you that your life is different. It constructs elaborate narratives of cosmic progress, promising that if you just climb the next corporate ladder, purchase the next home, or achieve the next social metric, you will finally arrive at a plateau of permanent fulfillment. That is the grand illusion of the modern age. Your boulder is your job, your daily chores, your exhausting pursuit of validation. You push it up the hill every Monday, only to find it waiting for you at the bottom every Friday. You think this futility is a tragedy. You call it despair. I call it the starting point of true human dignity. Look at your own life through the lens of this heavy stone. How many years have you wasted searching for a higher purpose, begging for an external sign, or paralyzing your present hour because you are afraid that your efforts mean nothing? You treat the silence of the world as a punishment. You run to the temples of commerce, of ideology, of cheap entertainment, desperately trying to shield your eyes from the blank canvas of reality. You call it seeking meaning. I call it a cowardly evasion. The moment you realize that the universe is entirely indifferent to your tears is the exact moment you are finally free to live. True rebellion does not begin with an army or a grand political declaration. It begins in the quiet chambers of your own mind when you look at the absurd, meaningless landscape of your life and you decide to smile anyway. Sisyphus is not a victim. He is the ultimate master of his fate, because every single time he turns around to walk back down the hill toward his stone, his consciousness belongs entirely to him. Let us speak of the scaffold you call your routine. You wake up at a synchronized hour. You swallow your coffee. You sit in the traffic. You spend 8 hours trading your irreplaceable vitality for paper currency. You eat, you sleep, and you repeat. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, according to the same unrelenting cadence. You move through this dance like a sleepwalker, convinced that the structure itself is a guarantee of your sanity. But one day, the why arises. The varnish wears thin, the momentum falters, and you look at your desk, your partner, your reflection in the glass, and you are seized by an acute, terrifying wave of nausea. The stage scenery collapses. You suddenly perceive that the world is strangely alien, that a stone is foreign and becomes unrecognizable to us, and that the sheer density of reality is too much for your fragile ego to bear. This is the awakening. This is the moment the absurd takes birth in your consciousness. Most men are completely broken by this realization when they discover that the social game is a bizarre pantomime. They flee backward into the comforting arms of nostalgia or forward into the desperate embrace of false hopes. They beg for an alibi. They invent new responsibilities. They drown themselves in debt. Or they adopt rigid moralities to avoid looking into the abyss. They turn themselves into well-behaved cogs within a machine that does not know their names. They think they are preserving their lives, but they are actually managing their own slow domestic decline. They learn too late that a life spent avoiding the absurd is a life that was never truly possessed. What is the nature of the trap you are currently decorating? You worry about your reputation. You manage your 5-year plans. And you insure yourself against every imaginable friction, believing that if you can control the perimeter, you can purchase a life of peace. What a magnificent delusion. Control is the first casualty of reality. You cannot control the market. You cannot control the loyalty of those you love. And you cannot control the biological decay that is already occurring within your own bone and muscle. The cold rule of defiance that you must master before your youth evaporates is that you must love the friction itself. You must train your mind to look at a chaotic, unpredictable world and see it not as a threat to your stability, but as an open invitation to execute your freedom. When you strip away the demand for a guarantee, you enter the arena as a true sovereign intellect. You do not act because success is certain. You act because the action itself is your signature upon the void. Look at your modern tribunals. You live in a culture that has transformed judgment into a multi-billion-dollar sport. Your digital platforms are digital coliseums where mobs gather to condemn, to label, and to crucify anyone who does not speak the homogenized language of the consensus. You spend your life walking on eggshells, tailoring your speech, and auditing your thoughts to appease these invisible courts. You think you are being a good citizen. You think you are maintaining order. I tell you, that you are merely volunteering for your own psychological imprisonment. The crowd does not care about justice. The crowd cares about entertainment. They want to see you bleed so that they can feel a fleeting, synthetic sense of their own righteousness. I knew the malice of the intellectual senates when I refused to align my pen with their bloody ideologies, when I asserted that no grand utopian future could ever justify the execution of a single living man in the present. They turned on me with an unbridled fury. My old allies became my most vicious executioners. They used the language of morality to mask their own lust for power. Do not make the mistake of arguing with them. Do not waste your vital spirit trying to prove your innocence to a jury that has already decided on your guilt. The only way to deal with an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion. Your modern Senate is your corporate hierarchy, your social media network, your family's outdated expectations of success. They whisper that you are being too reckless, that you are moving too fast, that you should accept the comfortable neutrality of the collective track. Break the mirror of their expectation. The moment you stop looking for your validation in the eyes of the crowd, you deprive them of their leverage. They can take your job. They can damage your reputation. They can exclude you from their shallow salons, but they cannot look inside your mind and make you bow. The cold truth that men realize too late is that the only true authority on this earth is the silent assent of your own mirror at midnight. If you can look at your own actions with an unblinking clarity, if you can say that you lived without deceit, that you fought for the present hour, and that you refused to barter your freedom for security, then you have already conquered their tribunals. Let them scream from the galleries while you build your own unshakable kingdom in the mud. Let us speak of the end. Let us speak of the inevitable execution that awaits every single one of us. We live under the comforting, catastrophic delusion that death is a distant event waiting for us at the very end of a long, straight highway. You look down the road and you think, the cliff is miles away. I have time to run. I have time to prepare. But this is a fatal anatomical misunderstanding of time. Death is not a wall at the end of the road. Death is the very current that flows beneath your feet this exact second. Every breath you draw is a small, irreversible expenditure of your limited mortality. You cannot save it. You cannot store it in a bank. And you cannot negotiate for an extension when the ledger lines are drawn. The world looks at the sudden, violent termination of a life, like the automobile crash that took my own breath on a lonely road in Villeblevin, as an interruption, a tragic accident that cut short a legacy. They miss the grand paradoxical poetry of the finish. A man's life is a complete work the very moment it ceases. You think a man who spent his life analyzing the absurd did not know the knives of time were already moving through his chest. I knew. I walked through the streets of Paris, through the battlefields of the resistance, through the glittering rooms of the Nobel Prize, with the constant, burning consciousness that my execution date was already signed by the laws of nature. And it was that exact consciousness that gave my life its sharp, incandescent velocity. The true tragedy is not dying under the wheels of fate. The true tragedy is living a life so small, so insulated, so terrified of risk that you arrive at the grave in a perfectly preserved body without ever having actually lived. The modern man spends his days managing his decline, avoiding conflict, protecting his little hoard of comfort, all to ensure that he arrives safely at the end without a single scar upon his ego. What an insult to the flesh! What a waste of the solar energy that runs through your veins! This is the paradox of the knife. You must be willing to lose your life to truly possess it. If you cling to your safety, if you refuse to take the grand, chaotic leaps because you are afraid of failure or death, you have already executed yourself. The knives of time are already coming for your status, your wealth, and your youth. You cannot outrun your own Villblevin. Since the end is already written in the soil, the only question that remains is how magnificent your story will be before the final curtain falls. Stop living as if you have 1,000 years to waste. Stand up, straighten your posture, look your mortality in the eyes and tell it that you are ready for the match. Breathe. Let the artificial static of your modern world fade into the background. Let the anxieties of your bank accounts, your status updates, and your petty social conflicts fall away like dust from a traveler's boots. You are an immortal consciousness trapped for a brief, lightning-fast moment in a vessel of bone and muscle. You were not put on this earth to survive. You were put here to impose your freedom upon the chaos of existence. You are the artist. You are the rebel. You are the master of your own soul. Look out over the landscape of your life. The territories of your potential are waiting to be conquered. The rivers are waiting to be crossed. Do not look back at the shore of your past mistakes. Do not mourn the years you wasted waiting for permission or searching for a higher meaning that does not exist. The past is a province you have already subdued. It has nothing new to teach you. The future is an unmapped wilderness, and you are the vanguard. In the midst of winter, I found there was within me an invincible summer, and that makes me happy. For it says that no matter how hard the world pushes against me, within me there's something stronger, something better, pushing right back. When you open your eyes and return to the arena of your daily life, do not walk as a tenant or a sleepwalker. Walk as the rightful owner of the terrain. When confronted by a decision, choose the path of maximum intensity and freedom. When confronted by chaos, take the command of your own mind. When confronted by the crowd, ignore the whispers. And when confronted by your own mortality, smile at the briefness of the hour. Your empire does not require columns of marble or legions of iron. It requires only this: an unyielding commitment to greatness, a sovereign mind that refuses to bow to mediocrity, and the courage to say, to every challenge that fate throws at your feet, I came, I saw, I defy.